Joseph, tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
Sure, yeah, thanks for having me. So Procreative is a 20-year-old video production company. You can see our studio behind me on the green screen. We started off our company doing infomercials. So we did a lot of television name brand infomercials that were very, very successful, and then moved to short form TV commercials. Quick story is over the course of time, you and I probably can't remember the last time we watched TV, let alone an infomercial. And so obviously our clients have seen dramatic drops in the results that they're getting on those kinds of platforms. So we've kind of, over the past decade, merged into much more online suited content rather than television advertising. So that's basically, we're a video marketing agency.
Okay. Did you guys ever, I understand you may or may not be able to tell, but did you guys ever get to work with any of the big infomercial personalities like Billy Mays or anything like that?
We did. So our first project was the Little Giant Ladder infomercial. We worked with the guy off of Tool Time, if you remember. It wasn't Tim Allen, it was his co-host Al Ball, and Richard Kahn is his name. And then the co-host for him was, oh gosh, her name escapes me, but she was the lady on the PBS Home Improvement, Home Time. Anyway, at the time they were pretty well-known celebrities, so that was kind of fun.
That's pretty exciting. Yeah. Now, obviously the way the world has changed over the last month and a half has impacted a lot of people in terms of their deal flow and in terms of their ability to do business. Events, for example, have been hit really hard. People aren't traveling. Airlines are down, hotels are down, all over the place. How are you guys responding to that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it hits pretty raw, right? So probably about 30% of our business is events. We travel all across the country and set up all the video equipment to live stream and broadcast and record events for playback later. And I remember when this hit, I had literally every single week for the next 7 weeks, I had a different state that we were going to film in, and within 3 days, every single event canceled. You know, and we were at that point where we were like, you know, is it going to go ahead? Is it not going to go ahead? Remember when we actually thought events would still go on, but every single one, you know, everyone canceled. And, you know, that was tens of thousands of dollars out of our pockets. But I guess the silver lining, what we really quickly figured that we could do was to turn these events on their head. We have one client who is he's in the dental space. And they market and have these training events where they bring dentists into a location and they teach them all the new techniques, and also obviously introduce their products at the same time. This one event, I think we had 200 dentists. I think I'm okay sharing these numbers. We had 200 dentists that were scheduled to fly into Orlando for this event. And we ended up broadcasting that event from our studio right here. The presenters that could physically come in, I think we stayed under the 10 people that was the Utah law at the time. We had about 10 people here in our studio presenting one after the other. We did the whole thing on Zoom. And then the doctors and medical experts that couldn't fly in, well, none of them could fly in, but that weren't in Utah, they just presented from their bedrooms. And we ended up having, I think over the course of 2 weeks, we trained over 2,000 dentists. I mean, it was unprecedented. They'd never had an event even close to it. So that's the kind of thinking that I think businesses need to look and say, yes, this is a sucky situation, but there are opportunities to really reimagine your business model and practice. And they also did something that they've never done before, and they gave it all away for free, right? There's normally a ticket price. Well, if you're opening the doors to 2,000 people, you could probably make a lot of money, but you'll make a lot more money with goodwill if you make it free and make your brand the hero for being the sponsor of that event. So,
yeah, exactly. And especially if you can pilot any of these kinds of educational content into these businesses, let them see how valuable your expertise is. You really can monetize it better later. And especially with some of the smaller events over the course of several days online,
Yep.
as opposed to like the fly into Orlando, maybe have 200 people.
Yep.
There's a lot more potential for reach there, just because people aren't
Absolutely.
always willing to travel, be away from their families, do the expenditures for hotels, reimbursed or otherwise. It's a lot less overhead.
And the element of, I mean, we've all seen and been a part of pre-recorded training. The
Hmm.
element of doing it live, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the memes online about how Zoom is really the benefactor of COVID-19, but doing something like that on Zoom where people get to engage and ask questions and raise their hand and be on the chat, and literally in real time we had somebody monitoring the chat and throwing these questions to these presenters. It just brings a whole community aspect together that we hadn't seen before.
It does. And there are definitely a few options that kind of do that, like LinkedIn Live, for example.
Sure.
Um, but in terms of the low cost or free, like Webinar Jam, for example, does some similar stuff. But
Hmm.
that's like $300 a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like a lot of businesses can't afford $300 a month. Half the consumers in the market can't afford a $500 medical bill right now. And that's just crazy. So having something that's like 20 bucks a month that you can live stream to hundreds of people per instance and then post as a webinar later whenever, wherever you want to, that's just is a really powerful software, especially including the community aspects.
Yeah, and even the technology to be able to put this event together. I mean, I know, we have a big old studio and we have hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment. I'm looking right now, in fact, I'm broadcasting right now on a box that costs, I think, less than $500 that we were able to stream the entire event from, slideshows to live cameras, multiple audio inputs. I mean, back a decade ago even, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to do what I'm now doing. I'm using professional equipment, but you could use consumer grade cameras, plug it into a box such as the one that Blackmagic, it's the Blackmagic A10 Mini. Actually, I think this was $299. They just brought out a smaller version. So no business is out of the budget of doing something like that.
Certainly not. And even the studio setup I've got here, I think I've got $70 with a background. That's 3 green screens, the stand, light boxes, umbrellas, 40 bucks and a microphone and 20 in a webcam.
Yeah, it's nuts.
That's
And if
it.
you don't know how to do it, just YouTube it, and in 10
Yep.
minutes, you'll know. It's
Yep.
crazy.
It is. The availability of the information, the advancement of technology, and the connection between people that's making the market the way it is now since this has hit us is just absolutely insane. And I think
Yeah.
businesses have a lot of opportunity to advance here, kind of strip out some of those legacy traditions, if you will, like the big 3,000 person events in Orlando that pull everybody away from home, that cost all the extra travel resources, and then switch to these smaller, agile, even recordable and on-demand events. That gives us
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens to the hotel and conference industry after COVID-19, because
Yep.
we're getting used to this, right? It's so much more convenient. Are you really? Yes, you miss out on the personal touch. I don't think that can be replicated. Yes, there are networking opportunities that you just won't get online, but there's a heck of a lot of stuff that you can do. And hotels are going to have to pivot and reimagine and come up with new ways to, stay ahead of the game.
They are. They are. And there's a lot of room, I think, in terms of hotel and conference for experiential opportunity. But the traditional business travel, like David and I were talking not that long ago, there's just not going to be the demand for business travel after this because there's more information that you can get from several of these small events just kind of sprinkled throughout the year as opposed to the one-time several $1,000 buy-in event
Yeah,
once or twice a year. And you get so much more personalized information too.
for sure. And have it on demand if you miss something, right? Need to use the
Exactly.
restroom, you can rewind it and watch it again.
Exactly. Exactly. So I know one thing that's really prominent right now is a lot of the traditional leadership has gone out the window. You know, you don't so much have the top down dictation anymore. You've got people working from home at the C level that have maybe done it before. And then you've got it all the way down the chain to people who are, you know, this is their first time working at home and they're in an entry level position, maybe even interns. And as an intern, I was fortunate enough working with Northrop Grumman that I did remote work about half the time, and they had very clear systems in place. You know, they told us, here's how you manage the things, here's how you connect to the network, here's the full host of knowledge base and resources that you use if you have any problems. But a lot of companies never had that in place going into this, and that's scary for people.
Mm-hmm.
So are there any leadership trends that you're seeing coming in from the video marketing angle?
Not specifically. I mean, obviously, you know, working in a video conferencing environment rather than, you know, face-to-face meetings that we're doing. We're not really. That's probably a question for another guest of yours. But you know, just making decisions in producing campaigns and things that we normally love to get in front of a person and give a nice sales pitch and really spell out the ideas and draw on whiteboards and stuff. We're just learning to deal with leadership in a completely different way. I don't think that answers your question, but yeah.
That actually does give some good insight. I imagine we'll probably have several viewers who are going to be agencies similar to yourself. Had you thought about maybe working with some companies to create like video and/or video/text knowledge-based content for their work from home employees, especially as people start hiring back into the post-COVID impact world?
That's a really good point. We have, and we're not, you know, we're maybe guilty of telling other people to do the right thing and sometimes not taking our own medicine, like creating, you know, simple content that educates people on how to do stuff, creating our own YouTube channel and stuff. Our focus is really creating these big videos that get millions of views and, you know, quote unquote, go viral and convert to millions of dollars in sales. Our new website that we've been running for the past 2 years is funnysalesvideos.com. That's really where our focus is right now. But we have I was, in fact, just yesterday talking to somebody about creating a line of videos. For example, right now, you're looking at me, see if I can work this new piece of equipment that I recently got. But you're looking at me right now on a green screen, but I'm obviously not in my studio. I'm just on a green screen. But there's a big difference between having a conversation with somebody, you know, that looks like this, or maybe, you know, looks something more like, you know, they're at home, but it's a nice, simple, professional backdrop. And then, you know, you've seen people when you've had a conference call with them, they're using the green screen function and half of their head keeps popping in and out of image. I mean, just how to set up a simple green screen and how to light it. I don't have control over the camera right now, but I went down to Home Depot. I mean, we got hundreds of thousands of dollars of lights in the other room, but I can't be bothered to bring out the heavy lights. I literally have a strip light up here, a strip light either side, creating a nice balanced green screen with a green screen that costs maybe $50. We were going to create, and we still will, a video just to throw out on LinkedIn and teach people how do you pull a really clean key using your webcam and, you know, $50 worth of lights from Home Depot. Those kinds of things, so that when you're in a meeting and you're presenting, I mean, Microsoft Teams is spending millions of dollars right now running ads about their new video conferencing feature that has the blur out background for this exact reason, because, you know, they don't want to be distracted by what's going on. So creating a really simple green screen, I mean, if you're going to be spending 90% of your working day on a Zoom call, is it worth spending, you know, a couple hours setting up a nice background? Or even if you don't use a green screen, how do you light yourself, right? How do you put yourself in front of a window instead of behind a window? I can't tell you how many times, you know, we turn on the Zoom and we see the black ghost, right? Somebody that clearly doesn't know that they need to be sitting facing a window instead of having the window behind them. And just camera position, right? I don't want to see you from your chin up. Don't put your laptop down here, raise it up, and you know, you'll look 10 years younger and 10 pounds lighter. Just little simple tips like that, I think, are things that we can all do to share and help other people that, you know, don't have that kind of background and experience.
Definitely. And especially like the 6 really basic photography angles, just kind of expanding on that front. That's a really easy share, like a really easy infographic or a really easy short form blog post. But that's something that's really impactful for a lot of people because they never learned that. They don't know it.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
So I think that's really good content that you guys would benefit from and that anybody who finds it would benefit from.
Yeah.
Now, with the prominence of Zoom calls and of meetings for a lot of people, kind of expanding off of the lighting topic for a minute, do you have any suggestions for running efficient meetings with people? That's a really common struggle, especially in the legacy world.
Yes.
A lot of the time, meetings will be scheduled for 15 minutes, but then 30 minutes or 45 minutes later, you're still talking.
Oh yeah, it's funny. I just watched a video, I think this weekend, where Mark Cuban talked about how he hates video conferencing. He wants everything in an email because half of your video conference is, how was your weekend? How's everyone doing? Oh, where are you today? You know, just things that are nice to do in a real environment. But when you only have a thin block of time blocked out, and you know that you're up against that 30-minute window or wherever, and your next person, it just becomes a domino trickle effect where you just completely can wipe out the alignment of your day if you don't stay on task. So, you know, as much as it hurts a little bit to say this, you got to get down to the business, right? And try to keep everybody on schedule. I talk about it in terms of production. So before this call, I was pre-producing a video shoot that we're doing next week. In my video shoots, to the 5 minutes, I know exactly which actors are turning up, what props I need, what wardrobe I need, what crew members are going to be doing. You need to take that same mentality and put it into an online meeting format. If you've got an agenda for that meeting, that's the first thing that you need to do if you're not. And then having someone assigned to keep you to the point, because you don't want to always be the bad guy, right? So having somebody that is willing to be the bad cop and just remind everyone, okay, we got 15 minutes left. We still got 3 things on the agenda. So they know we're either going to have to steam through it or things are going to have to be cut out of this meeting and postponed. So I think the short answer is you've got to have an agenda, you've got to stick to it, and then you've got to be accountable to other people. If you're asking other people for their time, be respectful and stick to that time limit.
Exactly, because it's not just respect for everybody else's time, it's respect for your time too, because you got stuff you got to get done too.
Sure.
So I totally resonate with where you're coming from, and any call that I personally orchestrate, be it consulting or be it with a client to go through content, we always go in with an agenda. I always shoot for 15 minutes. Sometimes we go over to 20, but they understand that it's a 30-minute time slot and we may go over that 15-minute expectation.
Right. Yeah. That's a good strategy.
I think, you know, going into some of these calls, you book the 30 minutes, but you tell everybody, hey, we're going to shoot for 20, has been a really effective strategy for me too.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a really fun and engaging call, Adam. Is there any single quote or statement that you'd like our viewers to walk away with from you? Kind of a parting gift?
Interesting. Well, maybe just one final thought that I could share. We briefly discussed this before we started this, but just our strategy right now of giving back and trying to reinvent ourselves, maybe somebody out there can learn from what we're doing. So just really, really quickly, for the past 3 years, our focus has been laser focused on growing our funnysalesvideos.com brand, right? So these are very expensive videos that convert into much more high revenue generating profits for our clients. So we produce a video for $50,000 and we've generated $500,000, but not all clients can afford a $50,000 video. And so before this COVID-19, that was kind of our pricing and we weren't flexible. COVID-19 hit, and just like our events, our bigger funny sales video projects started to not cancel, but put on hold. Let's just see what happens in the next few months and ride out this economic crisis and see if we're going to need to save that money for something else. And so what we did, we're in a blessed situation where financially we're strong, but I have a crew of people that I want to keep busy. Right. And so what I've done is I've started reaching out to businesses and saying, you know what, do you need help generating new sales right now? What if we were to put all of the money up front, produce this video, and then instead of you paying us a penny, you pay us based on the first X amount of sales that come in. And so that's been our strategy. And it's you know, I've been busy on Zoom calls all week talking to people about this. And so my question to your audience is, what would you not have done a month ago that, you know, these situations cause us to stop, to evaluate, to rethink, and to pivot, to fail fast, learn, and find a new way to add value to your customers, to create a, you know, an environment where it's a win-win situation. And it's not necessarily all about profits. It's about keeping people busy, about adding value to businesses, and ultimately, you know, adding to the overall economy. So that's just one thing that we've done. And I'd ask your audience, what could you do to pivot and learn and fail fast and then find something that works?
Experimentation is definitely a great way, and helping other people. Value-based pricing, for example, a really common trend in the consulting realm, like you were talking about, is a great way to help people. You know, they get access to these premium services, and then if they benefit strong, they pay for it. And if they don't benefit so well, they're not really out that extra overhead, which for micro, small, and even mid-range businesses can be really impactful.
Absolutely.